In this episode of Step Into the Blue, it's one of the most common but underreported violent crimes. San Jose police officers respond to thousands of domestic violence calls each year, and training to properly do so begins right here at the Academy. And then, uniform pressed? Check. Boots polished and weapons spotless? Check. Keeping your composure while standing nose to nose with many of the department's top brass for inspection? Well, we'll check on that one. Class 16 undergoes the demanding midterm inspection.
Police officers come from all walks of life. Some start their careers right out of college. Others were business people, and many served in the military. But before they become police officers, all of them spend time as recruits at the police academy. Now, join the recruits of the San Jose Police Academy as they prepare to step into the blue.
I swear I'm gonna freaking kill you. I will go home right now. I will get my gun. I will put my gun to your head. I will kick the crap out of you.
Last year, San Jose police officers responded to 2,982 calls of domestic violence, and those are just the ones that were reported. After undergoing 12 hours of classroom training, the members of Academy Class 16 are participating in domestic violence scenarios and putting into practice what they've learned, including when the domestic violence laws apply.
If the relationship, the domestic violence relationships are of an intimate relationship, so we're not talking about family disputes, brother, sister, uncle, aunt type of things. We're talking about relationships, husband, wife, if they live together, if they have a child together, if they have a dating relationship. So if there's any assault and battery that occurs, then that's deemed domestic violence.
She mentioned that you pushed her into the wall over the corner of the table. How did that happen?
I don't know. I mean, she broke something of mine, and so, I had to push her. I mean, I was hurting,
So you pushed her, okay.
As Officer Gilio DeBari explains, while that push may not have resulted in serious injury this time, it's important for officers to intercede to prevent the possibility of more serious injury to the victim in the future.
What the Academy does is it teaches them to which crimes that they have to identify for that, and then to make an arrest in that situation. Because we found that if an arrest is made, that might stop that cycle of violence. Because many times, officers are going to the same house all the time and dealing with the same domestic violence issues.
However, Recruit Cerniglia's work doesn't end with the arrest of the suspect. Victims of domestic violence often feel trapped, experience fear, and don't know where to turn for help. So it's essential that the recruits not only communicate with empathy and compassion, but also provide victims with referrals to programs that provide support, information, and other resources.
So they have to know about any shelters that they can go to. They get financial assistance if they can't afford it. They get information on restraining orders so that they don't come back and do the same assault and batteries. So because of all these changes that have occurred, all of our recruits in the Academy have to learn every aspect of it, so when they hit the field, they know exactly what they need to do.
Santa Clara County law enforcement agencies for years have led the way in examining and refining the response to incidents of domestic violence. Their efforts led to the creation of the Domestic Violence Protocol, which provides guidelines and establishes standards for public safety dispatchers, police officers, and investigators when handling domestic violence cases. Tucked away on the lower floor of the San Jose Police Administration building is the department's firearms range. Most of Class 16's firearms training classes will be held at this indoor range. But when the weather is as nice as it is here in San Jose, why not soak up a bit of sunshine at the outdoor range? In addition to the change of scenery and the chance to catch a few rays, the outdoor range is also much larger, which allows for longer distance shooting and a greater variety of training exercises, including the use of different types of targets. Hitting a bullseye while you're breathing hard after a short run requires not only solid concentration, but also competent trigger control. And if at first you don't succeed, well, you know the drill. Fortunately, with the help of the range instructors, all members of Class 16 have become proficient with their weapons. The real test, however, is their final range qualification session, and that's still a few weeks away. During the very last range session, there's going to be a little competition among the members of Class 16 to determine who's going to win the title of Top Gun. It might be hard to believe, but Class 16 has reached the halfway point of the Academy. That means there are only 12 more weeks of Academy training left before graduation, when the recruits will be sworn in as police officers. Now keep in mind that the Academy graduation doesn't signify the end of their training. New San Jose police officers will enter FTO, where they'll undergo 17 weeks of practical on-the-street training while working under the watchful eye of a seasoned FTO or field training officer. But that's down the road. Before they can move on to the second half of the Academy, Class 16 must first pass the midterm inspection. Now, inspections are nothing new. Class 16 has been through it many times before, but this time it's different and a whole lot more stressful. You see, typically the inspection is done by Academy staff members and training officers, but today there's a lot of brass here, as they're joined by command staff, sergeants, and senior officers from the San Jose, Fremont, and Palo Alto police departments.
So the purpose was today was brought command officers and sergeants from the other allied agencies as well as our own agency. We go out there and we look at their bearing, their knowledge, how they look in uniform, and well, quite frankly, a lot of it is how nervous they are. They know the material, but when they have a lieutenant or a sergeant standing in front of them, their hands start sweating and they get nervous, and sometimes they forget information that they otherwise would know. For those of us who've been on the job a long time, you wouldn't think that having a lieutenant or a sergeant or even a senior officer standing in front of you would make you nervous, but it really does make them nervous. And we get to gauge how they respond under stress. They obviously go through a lot of scenario testing during the academy. This is just one more way to expose them to stress. And it's not a great gauge, but it's the best gauge we have of seeing how they're going to react under stress in the street.
As Lieutenant Wager said, this isn't just a uniform and equipment inspection. It's also a test of the knowledge these recruits have learned during their first 12 weeks at the Academy.
So they were asked a variety of penal code sections. It might be some laws they've learned in search and seizure or laws of arrest. Might be policies that are related to their agency. So it's a knowledge-based inspection, and what we're trying to gauge is where we are at the midway point. Are we ready to continue to move forward? Are there things that we need to go back and re-educate them on?
Well, one thing we do know, when it comes to drill and marching, no re-educating is required. You might recall that in an earlier episode, we watched as Class 16 underwent their very first drill training session. And naturally, there were a few missteps. But not anymore. By this midterm inspection, they've got the moves down. Of course, the big question is, did they pass the midterm inspection?
I'm very pleased with the progress of Class 16. As I told them upstairs, they have a lot of work ahead of them. If they think that this academy process is hard, the FTO program is 3 times harder. And I tried to let them know that this is just the first hill. They have a whole big mountain to climb in the future.
I'm pleased overall with the performance. There are some individual issues that will be addressed by the training officers, who again are the direct supervisors for each recruit. Some guns that could have been a little cleaner than they were, some knowledge that the recruits should have known that didn't know. So we recognize the fact that a recruit can't remember everything we teach. We have almost 1,000 hours of instruction here, and we know full well that that's a lot to remember. They are a sponge in an ocean when they come here to the academy. They can only absorb so much. The problem is everything is important.
For the recruits, one goal that certainly is important is the switch from the khaki academy uniform to the blue police uniform. And one of the factors that determines just when that occurs is the outcome of today's midterm inspection.
I know that the recruits of Class 16 are very anxious for that to happen. I think as a staff we're anxious for it to happen too, but here's the steady tone here. At the academy, the recruits have to earn everything they get. Whether it's the hat piece for the hat, it's the badge they earn at completion of the police academy, or it's that blue uniform, the recruits have to earn that.
So while Class 16 passed today's midterm inspection, it remains to be seen whether they have earned those blue uniforms. In the meantime, as they fall out headed back to the classroom,
1-6, never quit!
the second half of the San Jose Police Academy is about to begin. In our next episode of Step Into the Blue, he might be a big guy in a red suit, but don't expect him to bring you a present, unless maybe it's a quick left jab. Then we go Code 3 from the mat room to the skid pan as the recruits get behind the wheel for some fast laps and a lesson about safely operating an emergency vehicle.